Hello, my name is Tony Poulos, and welcome back to the weekend recap brought to you by NordVPN, Raid Shadow Legends, Honey, Dollar Shave Club, Quip, Ridge Wallet. I'm joking. No sponsors, but me. It's brought to you by me. And the internet, I guess. Sponsored by the internet. So another week of excellent matches, and despite me being in the midst of my third move in 3 years, I was still able to catch almost all of the action while I was building furniture and replacing light fixtures. So let's talk about this weekend's Bundesboys. But first, a quick diversion. Things are looking good for La Liga, the Serie A, and the Portuguese Primeira Liga to return in June. A possibility that the Premier League will return as well, though that situation is a bit more murky than the aforementioned leagues. They'll probably return, it's looking like maybe July, unless they just go ahead with it. But La Liga is aiming for sometime around June 19th as a return date. It was previously reported as the 8th, but a lot of the clubs and players feel that's too early, so the 19th is seeming more likely. In Italy, they took a huge step last week as their medical protocol was approved. Now they are looking to May 28th as the date in which they will make their final decision as to when they are going to start the league up again, or rather, if and when they will. According to the Italian health minister, there's still a chance that it won't be sorted out. They won't return. In Portugal, they're returning next week on June 3rd, and there will be matches played in 5-day batches from the 3rd to the 7th, and then a day off. From the 9th to the 13th, and then a day off, etc., etc. I can't wait to watch Benfica again. I just hope it's not the pre-COVID Benfica that turns up. All right. Schalke versus Augsburg. Schalke were playing at home, and after they were baptized last week against Dortmund 4-0 in the Revier Derby, giving new meaning to the name Schalke 04, Wagner gang looks to bounce back, right? Against a team from the bottom half of the table playing at home, they should be fine, right? No, wrong. Now I do feel for them a bit, only just a little bit, just the slightest bit, as they went down after 6 minutes thanks to a stunning free kick from Augsburg's Edouard Leuven. Not a ton the keeper can do here, but the response was poor, just as it has been all year long for Schalke. Suffice to say, they were lifeless again in comparison to how they played during the first half of the season. Gregoritsch nearly leveled after 70 minutes, but Augsburg doubled their lead in the 76th. Blood on the hands of Salif Sane there, with his awful attempt at a clearing header. Shambolic stuff, and Augsburg added a third thanks to some more shambolic defensive work. 3-0 the final. Schalke looked like a bunch of strangers that had just met in the park for a kickabout. One win in 2020. In their last 9 matches, they have lost 5 and drawn 4, scoring just twice in that frame. Each time they scored, it was a 1-1 result, and they've been blanked in every other match. And they really need to turn things around here in their next few matches. They should have beaten Augsburg, and now they will have to beat Dusseldorf, Werder Bremen, and Union Berlin before they face Leverkusen, if they want a chance at that Europa League qualification spot in 6th. Former Schalke player Leon Goretzka is having a much more enjoyable time at Bayern Munich. Obviously, that's a no-brainer, as he provided the opener to Bayern's match at the Allianz Arena against Eintracht Frankfurt. Yes, the hurting continued for Frankfurt as well this weekend. More great work from Thomas Müller as his cutback to the delayed run of Goretzka gave them the lead. Later, a calamity in defense saw the ball come out to the left for Alphonso Davies to collect and hit a perfect curling ball in behind the Frankfurt back line. Müller to make it 2-0 in a somewhat clumsy but effective way, and Frankfurt looked hopeless in that first 45, providing next to nothing going forward and looking shaky at the back. After the half, Lewandowski linked up with Coman, and of course Bobek scored, as he is obliged to do in every single match it seems in the Bundesliga. That was his 27th goal of the season, 3-0 to Bayern, but their Achilles heel was exposed finally. In a 3-minute blitz, Frankfurt's Martin Hinteregger scored from 2 corner kicks, with Davies and Alaba playing a little after you, sir, when trying to deal with a clearance, leaving Hinteregger to smack it past a stranded Neuer. The second saw Hinteregger Hinteregger's near-post run go completely untracked. Not a single defender following him, and his header to the far post was diverted beautifully. Credit to him. Suddenly, it was 3-2 for Bayern, and a bit nervy when you consider Frankfurt knocked 5 past Bayern last time they played. But their own defending, Frankfurt's own defending, their own Achilles heel, let them down again, and a somewhat fortunate / poorly handled clearance from Frankfurt fell to Davies in the box, and his right-footed strike made it past trap. 4-2. Great performance by Davies in the second half. The 5th for Bayern was tucked away by Hinteregger himself as he got a hat-trick, though only 2 of the goals were for Frankfurt. Hinteregger is a weapon from set pieces, by the way. He scored 8 goals this season, all of them coming from corner kicks. So, I mean, no surprise here, really, as Frankfurt continue to drop in the standings, as Bayern nearly mirror the 5-2 scoreline from back in November. Oh, and Bayern have set a new Bundesliga record as they have scored 80 goals after just 27 matches. 17 of those have been set up by Müller, as his hot streak of assists continues. He'll no doubt break the Bundesliga record for assists. Frankfurt, they're now in a relegation dogfight. And speaking of 5-goal beatdowns, RB Leipzig dished one out this weekend. You'll remember last weekend they were left frustrated against Freiburg and got a bit unlucky in some ways to not get the win given the opportunities they missed and the goal Freiburg scored. But lucky they didn't lose as well, given the hairline offside at the end of the match. That would have won it for Freiburg. Well, they put that all behind them as they went away to Mainz and slapped the life out of the team that also finds themselves in a relegation battle. Timo Werner got over last weekend's frustrations by notching a hat-trick as he tries to close the gap that Lewandowski put between himself and the rest of the Bundesliga marksmen. Those 3 goals put him within 3 of Lewandowski's 27. Yusuf Poulsen left his mark on the match as well as he scored Leipzig's 2nd goal while also setting up Werner for his 1st and 3rd goals. A goal and 2 assists. Great turnout from him. Sabitzer was dominant in the midfield and grabbed an assist and a goal as well. Campbell continues to look strong for Leipzig. And I mean, if Leipzig can continue this form, like I said in my preview, they have a pretty favorable end to the season fixtures-wise. But of course, they will need Bayern to drop some points along the way. Dropping points has been a specialty of Hoffenheim's this year as their winless run stretched to 7 matches. They played away to bottom of the table Paderborn and could only muster a 1-1 draw. That result didn't help either team with their respective goals for the season. And another team fighting it out at the bottom of the table, Werder Bremen, had a very important match against SC Freiburg this weekend. Bremen hadn't won a match since January 18th coming into this one, while Freiburg, of course, played a frustrating role in Leipzig's weekend a week ago, as I had just mentioned to you. For Bremen, while they have a match in hand, they can't really afford to lose matches anymore, as they sit comfortably in the relegation places alongside Paderborn. If it's even possible to say they sit comfortably in a relegation place, but you know what I mean. Not a very comfortable seat. It took plenty of heroics from Bremen's keeper Yuri Pavlenka to pull it off, but Bremen got a massive victory to win 1-0 and keep their survival hopes alive. Their game in hand is against Eintracht Frankfurt, which will be huge for their survival if they can get a win there. They've still got it against them in order to survive, but with that victory, perhaps that will propel them forward? A great escape? We'll see. Cologne hosted another team that's scrapping it out at the bottom of the table, Fortuna Dusseldorf, and this match was the first that I had heard with canned crowd noise. And to be honest, I was working on this video while I was watching, and at times I had forgotten there was no crowd in the stadium. It's a hokey-pokey idea on paper, in my opinion, but the programmers pulled it off nicely. It's very dynamic. They had whistles when the visitors scored, claps when the keepers came to collect crosses or a well-taken pass was pulled off, claps when the hosts played the ball out of defense. Well, better than I thought it would be. It was nice that it wasn't as hollow sounding as some of the other matches where you can just hear the players screaming and the commentators. But anyways, Dusseldorf were certainly better than perhaps Cologne thought they would be, as Cologne looked very blunt in their attack, in comparison at least to last week. Well, Dusseldorf didn't exactly put out an exhibition in attacking, but they were sharp when they needed to be and looked the stronger team throughout the match, I thought. At least until the second half. After the first half was up, they had a 1-0 lead thanks to Kenan Karaman's goal, the 5th Bundesliga goal of the season for the Turkish striker. Very poor first half from Cologne, and while they looked much better in the second half, they essentially blew the game in the 60th minute. Or did they? So from the penalty spot, Mark Uth had his penalty saved, but the rebound fell perfectly in his path to lash it past the keeper. However, Jan Cordoba was rushing in as well, and both of them passed up the opportunity to strike. They just let it roll past them. That should have been 1-1, and in the classic harsh football fashion, Dusseldorf went the other way and scored to make it 2-0. Beautifully directed ball that curled around Timo Horn. But as I said on Twitter, Cologne is possibly the most entertaining team in the league right now. Last week, they blew a 2-0 lead, and this week, well, substitute Anthony Modeste made it 2-1 in the 88th minute, and in the 91st, Cologne's top scorer, Jan Cordoba, rose to direct Drexler's cross past the keeper, make it 2-2. Drexler, after his incredible assist last week, grabs a brace of assists this week and rescues a point for Cologne. Wow. Like I said in my preview, this is a team to watch. They haven't played a boring match for ages now. One of the highlights of the weekend, from the outset at least, was the Berlin derby between Hertha and Union, but there was only ever one team in this one. Respect to Union, who were in this match until halftime or so, and nearly went ahead around the 50th minute, but once Vedas Ibisevic put the hosts Hertha in front, it was over. Even worse for Union, Hertha scored a second just a minute later. 10 minutes after that, Matheus Cunha scored to make it 3-0. Then, 3 goals in 10 minutes, that's game over, really. New coach Bruno Labbadia's men added a fourth in stoppage time as the big Belgian, Dedrick Boyata, topped off his fantastic defensive performance with his 4th goal of the season. 4-0 the final, and Hertha have won 2 games on the trot now. They haven't done that since December of 2019. So not too long ago, but still. Things are starting to look up there for Hertha. Another massive match was Dortmund taking on the 7-match unbeaten Wolfsburg at Volkswagen Arena. Dortmund fielded the same starting 11 that east past Schalke, and while they had a much more difficult time against Oliver Glasner's Wolfsburg, they still looked decent. Their attack is just so potent. Their opening goal coming courtesy of Julian Brandt's sauce as he found Hakimi. Hakimi slipped in Thorgan Hazard, and Hazard tried to pick out Haaland, who whiffed on the shot, only for the late arriving Rafa Guerreiro to tuck it in for his 3rd goal in the last 2 matches. That's a hot streak he's on since the return. After the half, the Dortmund defense seemed to still be in the dressing room as Renato Steffen got in clear behind the defense relatively easily, and yet he didn't even make Roman Bürki work for the save. He aired it right into the empty stands. Later, from a much more difficult scenario, Steffen did force a save out of Bürki, but he certainly will be ruining that earlier miss. He should have put that away and made this match interesting at 1-1, but it remained 1-0, and later Dortmund struck again as Jadon Sancho drove forward on the counter and dished wide to Hakimi, who smashed it past Castells. 2-0. The final, and Dortmund are looking great, even without Witsel in midfield, without Royce, with Sancho starting on the bench, Emre Can starting on the bench. They're looking solid ahead of the huge match that's coming on Tuesday. Okay, the match that I was most excited about this weekend was no doubt Borussia Monchengladbach, Die Fohlen, hosting Bayer Leverkusen. 2 teams that are really developing into genuine threats to the undoubtable top 3 of Bayern, Dortmund, and Leipzig. 2 coaches that are making things exciting in the Bundesliga. Bosch getting his redemption arc as he arrived in December of 2018 at Leverkusen, while Marco Rose has made Borussia Monchengladbach a very solid side in his first season with the club. Leverkusen have a definite match winner in their ranks in the young Kai Havertz. He made an impact early as he was played through by Karim Bellarabi, and he made no mistake in sliding the ball under an on-rushing Jan Sommer. Pretty terrible first half from Gladbach, at least by their standards, as they were outmatched at home in nearly every way. But they came out firing in the second in front of their cardboard cutout fans, and Thuram scored a tasty volley in the 51st minute to tie things up. All right, we've got a game here now, right? Wrong. As Gladbach then shot themselves in the foot in giving away a penalty just minutes after equalizing. Not the most clear-cut penalty ever, as Bellarabi was able to get his admittedly poor strike off and then was taken out by a late tackle following that. But after consulting VAR, the referee gave the penalty, and Havertz again just slipped it by Sommer. Sommer got a lot of the ball, but it still just deflected into the roof of the net. Leverkusen weren't nearly as dominant in the second half as they were in the first, but they were economical with their possession and in turn, their chances. Their 3rd goal and the final one of the match came by way of a well-taken free kick that Sven Bender nodded past Sommer. 3-1 Leverkusen as they cap off their scintillating week that saw them win 4-1 on Monday. Havertz with 2 goals on Monday, Havertz with 2 goals on Saturday, and a great week for Leverkusen. And the coming week will be great as well. Let's look at the table and then some fixtures that you can look forward to. So Bayern held on to their 4-point lead just as Dortmund held on to their 3-point lead over 3rd place Leipzig. That win over Gladbach means Leverkusen leapfrogged them into 4th place by just a point, while Wolfsburg loss means they come no closer to closing that gap on 5th, still 13 points. At the bottom, look at that. Eintracht struggling with 28 points, just 4 points above the relegation playoff. I never would have seen that coming at the beginning of the season. And remember, their match in hand is against another struggler in Werder Bremen. That's going to be a big one. So, as I said, this week will be a big match week as there is a potential title deciding match in Dortmund versus Bayern on Tuesday. Big Tuesday. Do not miss that one as Dortmund plays at home against their rivals. A win for Dortmund would cut Bayern's lead down to just a single point and make things very scary for the Bavarians. We also have Leverkusen versus Wolfsburg, which could be a fantastic match as well. And don't sleep on Leipzig versus the now in form Hertha Berlin, who have scored 7 goals and conceded none since the return. All right, guys. It was a pleasure as always to spend this Monday morning and afternoon or evening with you, whatever time of day. I hope you enjoyed this video and I wish you well. I should be moved into my new place very soon, just in time for the rest of the leagues to return, and I cannot wait. So thanks for sticking with me. My name is Adrian and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.